At ZEFR, we've always been in the business of contextual targeting. We work on some of the largest platforms in the world, specifically traditionally we've been working on YouTube. And YouTube obviously has a lot of content on the platform. There's 500 hours of video uploaded almost every single minute on the platform. And when we think about contextual, we think about how brands can align with specific types of content that makes sense based on their specific preferences. So we're going beyond the audience and looking at what type of content is somebody viewing, and does an ad placement in front of that content make sense? Where the conversations have really shifted and why we rolled out a contextual DMP recently is the whole conversation around safety versus suitability. We believe that the platform has done a really good job on the safety side of things. They have figured out how to alleviate a lot of the major safety issues, if you will. But where there has been a real opportunity is more around the suitability side. What we see is every single brand has their own definitions when it comes to content, what is acceptable for them or what is not acceptable for them. And what we want to do with our Context DMP is give that control back to the brands and allow them to say, when I think about health and wellness content or sports content, this is my definition, and this is the type of content that I want to be around, versus a black box definition that's broad across the entire industry.
What would be an example of a contextual placement that would really make sense? Can you give us the sorts of things that brands are looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, across the board, we work with, for example, pharmaceutical brands. And getting into that nuance I was just talking about, they want to be around health and wellness content. We traditionally have been in the business of defining what that means. Here is our definition of health and wellness. What we realize, though, and this is where it gets really interesting, is that every brand, again, has their own definition of what that is. We were working with a major pharmaceutical company. They said they want to be around health and wellness content. And when they looked at the type of health and wellness content, they said, well, our definition is actually different than what your definition is. For us, we don't want to be around anything homeopathic, for example, or anything around mental health. So what we were able to do is basically work with them to really define the nuance of what health and wellness means to them. So it's all about, again, really understanding and having the brand put a little bit of effort in up front in defining, this is the type of content that I want to be around and this is what I don't. It's not just about suppression and getting rid of stuff that they don't, but really defining the type of content that they do want to be around and doing it on a brand by brand or campaign by campaign basis.
How does contextual targeting fit into the wider world of audience targeting? And obviously there's a lot of discussion here at RampUp about how we identify particular types of consumer and then deliver relevant ads to them. Talk us about how contextual fits into that wider ecosystem.
Yeah, great question. So it really varies from platform to platform. Again, we started within the YouTube ecosystem. What happens within the YouTube ecosystem is there's a lot of shared devices that happen. I have children at home, they're constantly on my device. So we believe and have always been under the belief that contextual is really the strongest signal as to not only who somebody is, but the mindset that they're in versus kind of a traditional passive cookie device or traditional kind of audience segment. So for example, if I'm a brand and I want to reach people that are interested or foodies or people that are interested in food, our belief is it makes sense to align them with people actually actively looking at food content in that moment, right? I might be a dad, I might be a business professional, I might be a foodie, I might be a sports enthusiast. If I'm looking at business videos and I get served a food ad, I might not be in that mindset at that moment. So our whole belief is really aligning with the most contextually relevant content. And what we've seen is through tons of research and tons of lots of different partnerships with companies like IPG Magna and some others, that when you align a contextual preference with an ad that's more relevant, we see significant lifts across the board in all the key metrics.
What data do you base the contextual targeting on? In other words, how do you define the content that you're contextualizing against?
That's a great question. So it's been a really strong evolution within the marketplace when we think about contextual. So traditionally at ZEFR, we would focus on defining, and ZEFR would be the one to label that content. When you look at kind of the landscape, a lot of other companies out there, a lot of the legacy companies have come in and tried to define suitability and contextual using broad keywords. What we've realized over the last couple of years, and this is why we recently built the Context DMP, is these broad classifications just don't work. Using keywords don't work. What we've been focused on and what we've really evolved over the last couple of years is having humans actually be a part of the process. We want people to actually review videos, to train the machines. You hear a lot about people talking about human-trained machine learning and AI. When we think about it, it doesn't mean that we have some guy in a room turning knobs as the human. We actually have people watching videos to understand the nuance. Again, keywords in a title. If you have a title of a video that's 6 words long, that's not going to capture the intent of the actual video. Only human cognition can actually understand what that is. So our whole focus is taking in the preferences from the brand, really understanding, going back to the pharmaceutical example, what type of content meets their criteria, what doesn't, have humans actually watch a lot of videos, and then ultimately use the machines based on all the data coming from the human review of the videos, and that's what's going to drive kind of the best decision making and the best actual models.